Okay, I want to talk for a minute about skylights. Here we have a skylight as an element. We discussed this last week at our check-in, but I do want to give you kind of the overview of what this skylight essentially is capable of and how we can maybe modify it and do something more effective with it. In this skylight, we can see that the parameters, if we go into here, right, we have all of these skylight elements using the skylight tool over here in the toolbox. The settings for the skylight do give us things like edge angle. We can do the liner. We can sort of fake the liner into being a curb. There's ways that we can make this skylight work for us, but it's not going to be a traditional curb skylight. This is going to be like a Velux FCM, like a fixed curb mounted skylight or a fixed mounted skylight. It's not going to be sort of a field installed skylight. It's going to be more typical of like a flanged or flashed skylight. You can see it does have the curb here. There are parameters for the curb's thicknesses and stuff like that. You can even grab these hot spots and stretch and adjust even graphically in 3D. Now where this sort of falls apart is that not all of our roofs, the big thing for me is not all of our roofs are, excuse me, going to be a simple rafter roof, right? Like there might be an attic space or it might be a parallel cord truss or something like that. Let me switch this roof to, we'll use this roof as an example. Okay, so what I have here is essentially just an opening within the roof. So to do that, you can basically just select the roof, activate the pet palette, and punch in whatever size opening you want. So I could say I've got a 2 by 6 foot skylight opening here. Oops. Let me do that again, sorry. It is going on the plus side. So we'll go X2, Y6, and then we should get that opening. Yeah. But let's just say as a for instance, we have, and we'll go ahead and use this opening that I already have here. Right, so here I've got, these are trimming to another skylight roof element. So let's go ahead and turn on all layers here. And, right, so we have this thing right here. So if this is my skylight opening, the disadvantage to this is there's going to be a lot of moving parts, right? Like this skylight, if I want to move it, it moves the skylight. But let's just say as a, for instance, we'll go and put that back there. And I'm going to copy this and we'll make this like a bottom chord of the truss. So if we say that this is a 2 by 6 ceiling, maybe it's a flat ceiling kind of element, right? So we've got something like this. If you can see what's going on there. Obviously, we don't want that skylight there, so we'd have to delete that. We'd have to punch a hole. There's a whole process to get that to work. As an opening, we can have an opening, whether this is a slab or a roof. We can create that opening here. We can then also place, place walls. If these are, let's say 2 by 4, sure, we'll use this wall as our wall type, right? And we could say that we've got a wall curb that does something like this. Let's go ahead and draw this out here. Always hit cancel on this crop to single plane roof. We do not want to crop the roof. So obviously I can adjust what the settings of that roof are. We can adjust how far they come into this ceiling. Let's see, so if we go select all of these and we'll put the reference line on the outside core, that'll shift those in. So maybe adjust which side the core is on, maybe adjust the surfaces, whatever we need to do there. We can actually set the walls as targets. Oh, not that one. We want to go to design, solid element operations. So the walls can be targets and these roofs can be operators. Do subtraction with no extrusion, execute, then we get a nice clean sort of skylight well coming through. Again, the surfaces might need to be adjusted and all of that. But let's just say as a for instance, we maybe have a tall curb on this skylight. So let's drag a copy of this roof up and we'll say that this is, so Command Option D, drag a copy of this up, 18 inches. We've got a nice tall curb here, right? Let's go ahead and isolate this guy out and we'll delete just that opening. Right, so now I have just this roof right here. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if we had an 18-inch curb, we would want to go like from here up to 18 inches. Now this is going to be on a hidden layer. Right, so we have this hidden layer for objects and stuff. It's going to work just as well for this. I don't remember. Yeah, there is an SEO layer here. So we have that dedicated operator layer. That's probably what this should be on. And we're going to utilize this as our operator. We want to make sure that we're aligning it here. And then this is going to be our operator, and these are going to be our targets. And we'll do a subtraction with upward extrusion and execute. Right, now this layer, because it's, or this element, because it's on its own layer, we can hide that layer. And then rather than using the skylight object, which is going to be affixed to the roof, we can, or skylight element rather, we can grab the skylight object. So from the object tool, we're going to come into here, and you can see under the loaded libraries, we have the object library, openings, roof and windows and skylights. We have the same skylight options. So it looks very similar. It is identical. It's just used with an object, so it's not going to associate with the roof. A few things that are tricky about this: you might not want the grids. We do have options for hinged skylights versus fixed skylights. Let's just say it's an operable skylight here. Top hung, opening angle, you can actually set this so that it's going to be partially open in 3D as well. So there are options on that. And then we'll just go ahead and dump it in here. Now, the nice thing about this one is that because it's not dependent on the roof slope, we don't need to worry about any of the liners or extensions or anything like that. It can be a little bit tricky to figure out what the settings are. We don't want to zero anything out. That usually causes errors, but we can turn that lining off in some of these objects. So for example, if I turn that off, all I get is the skylight unit, right? That skylight unit then is going to sit on top of this curb. What you have to do now, though, because it's not tied to the roof, you have to manually set the angle of that skylight. So let's check the angle of the roof. A 3 and 12, I believe, is 14. Sorry, 6 and 12 is 22, I believe. So 1404 is the slope of the roof. So now we have to match that to the skylight. So I believe it's in here. Where's it at? I know that there's a parameter. Okay, pitch. Oh, I guess this particular skylight doesn't have to rotate. So we could say that the pitch is 3 and 12, right? And then we get that slope. And then if we want this to be to the inside, the outside, whatever, so this is like a 4'8" by, what is this? 7'5", so that's a big one. Something like that, right? So we can get this to match. Now let's just say, as a for instance, maybe this is a little bit inset from, you can see it still adds in like that skylight frame and stuff. Maybe this is inset and we have like a flashing cap or something, right? So let's say it's 4'4" by 7. The really nice thing about this is you can get to as much of a level of detail as you need for your particular project or your particular needs. So if, for example, I wanted a complex profile with the flashing and everything over this field installed curb, I can model that as a complex profile beam, right? You can go to options, complex profile, profile manager. You can draft out that profile, apply it to beams that slope around that whole curb, and you can model to that level of detail so your sections show nice and clean. Let's just throw another for instance in here. So let's go ahead and pull this down a little bit. And let's just say that this was a scissor truss or a parallel cord truss even, right? We don't want these curb walls to extend below, but if we were to say that these are targets and this is an operator and do a subtraction with downward extrusion, that can sometimes work. But what you'll notice is that unless my opening extends all the way to the inside face here, which you usually don't want because we don't want to see that edge. You might need another dedicated operator like we had for the top, just for the ceiling, so that way those lap properly. You can, however, say that we'll go into this opening and say that this edge alone is going to be overridden to be, we'll say generic interior, right? And then that would essentially match if we go to the reference line side of this wall and say that this is interior as well. So at least in elevation, that's going to clean up. However, because the core of this is extending and this is trimming to it, let's go ahead and take a look at that. If we put a section through this, go. Right? So you can see here that because this one's coming all the way through, it's trimming here. It's not going to look exactly right in section. So this is where it could be that this needs to stop at the face of finish. And then you need to, just like we did up above, have that dedicated operator here. Oh, that's not right. I want to grab the whole thing. Dedicated operator right here. And then we'll get rid of this. And then this piece is my operator. This is my target. Do a subtraction with downward extrusion. Oh, one more time. Target, operator, subtraction, downward extrusion. That's trimmed out, right? Let's pull this over so that we can actually see that cleaning up now. And then this would go back on that SEO layer, right? So that's hidden. And now if this were chipboard here, that chipboard would clean up to that chipboard. So you can see where you can get really effective high levels of detail modeling things with separate components like this. If it's just a matter of throwing in a quick skylight and wanting to see it in the model, something like this, and then dump in an extra opening for the ceiling, maybe some beams or something for the liner if you need it. This is what I would typically do for like early SD level models, where I just need to show a skylight, need to show it lit up in the model. This will work for you. If you want your sections to be clean, you want to show a high level of detail with all of the composite thicknesses and how all of these things come together, you might need to resort to something more like this in order to effectively show the exact details at your 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch sections that you need.